Kevin, over to you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, so as Jack mentioned, the title of my presentation is Using an Integrated Database to Increase the Profitability on Dairy Farms. And hasn't someone putting it on screen? Just waiting. No, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just giving you a small bit of background to the ICBF database from where it began in 2002 up to where we are today. Also on the Herd Plus dairy service, which Jack mentioned, that's the area that I'm involved with in ICBF. And Herd Plus is a source of information of farm management and breeding to help farmers make farm management and breeding decisions to improve profitability on farm. Some of the reports and tools that the farmers use to develop their breeding decisions, like your dairy calving report, the ICBF Co-op performance reports, the dairy sire advice, and the discussion group reports, which George alluded to earlier. So prior to 2001, Irish cattle breeding data was held on over 40 different databases with varieties of systems providing links between these databases. And you can see AI Companies was one of the databases where the information was stored, and that was stored on over 8 different systems throughout the country. We had the milk recording organizations, which were stored on 9 different regional databases. Herd Books, which was, I suppose, primarily the Holstein Friesian database, which was based in the UK. And then we also had the Department of Agriculture, which looked after the birth registrations and movements, as well as carrying out the genetic evaluations back then. So that's the links. And then ICBF, I suppose, was established to provide one single integrated cattle breeding database to cater for the needs of all those separate companies. So ICBF Animal Events Recording, that was introduced back in 2002, and it was to replace the various data collection systems that I mentioned already, from AI to birth registration to milk recording. And you can see the new system that was introduced replaced 5 separate systems: birth registrations, milk recording registration, calving dates for milk recording, pedigree registrations, and calving survey data. So all that data, farmers would have to fill out 5 separate forms to supply to their different databases. That was all replaced with one single line of data in the Animal Events Recording book. So that represented a big cost saving to farmers, as well as time and hassle. So today, in 2012, ICBF have providing a number of different recording tools. We have our own website where farmers can record everything from AI serves to dry-offs to mastitis events. We have the Department of Agriculture website where farmers can go online and record their births and notify cattle movements. We have the Animal Events book, which I mentioned already, and also the farm packages, the likes of Kingswood and AgriNet, where farmers can email their data directly to the ICBF database. But ICBF also have a number of handheld devices out in the field. We've got AI technicians using handheld, which greatly enhances the service, whereby the technician can come along and record the serve of the animal, and it comes directly back into the ICBF database. We similarly have a handheld developed for weight recording, and you'll see out in the foyer, just on the stairs, there's a number of handhelds, and you can have a look at them, but they're a very useful tool and a very efficient means of collecting data on farms. Farmers also use mobile phones to record information on our database. You can record serve information, dry-off information, mastitis events, you name it, you can record that through your mobile phone. And finally, we're also getting third-party data into the ICBF database, either from cattle marts or abattoirs. So you can see that the ICBF database is very well linked throughout the industry. And all this integration in the database, I suppose, led to the birth of HerdPlus. So today, in 2012, you can see the database is far more integrated throughout the industry. We now have milk co-ops supplying data to us on a daily basis. We're getting co-op data. Veterinary labs are also supplying health data, for example, the BVD program, which we rolled out in conjunction with Animal Health Ireland. That data is flowing directly into the database. Slaughter factory data, we're getting the grades and the kill prices directly into the database. And from the marts, we're getting the weights and the sale prices. We also provide marts with catalogues as well to help farmers choose animals on the day. All the information is provided, all the historic information is available to a farmer when they attend the marts. The farm advisors, as George mentioned, we've developed discussion group reports in conjunction with them to help facilitate better interaction within discussion groups. And I suppose the top two there, the Farm Relief Service and the veterinary surgeons, we've also developed a similar system for them to be able to access reports on the database to interact more efficiently with their farmers. So you can see the ICBF database is very well connected. The HerdPlus Dairy Service. So what is the HerdPlus Dairy Service? HerdPlus is a suite of management reports and online services which we provide to farmers. And it's developed for all dairy farmers, not just farmers that are milk recording or using AI or pedigree registering. It's for all dairy farmers. And the service was launched in September at the Ploughing Championships in 2006. And today we have over 6,000 farmers signed up to the service, which represents about a 9% increase in the last 12 months. So it's growing year on year. And currently, 86% of farmers are choosing to access the database via the online service, with 14% of them choosing the postal option. So we also offer an online and phone support for farmers to help them make the most of the service, or if they're having any difficulties accessing reports or understanding reports, that service is offered as well. And all that is available for €60 per year for the farmer, which I'm sure you'll agree is excellent value for what they're receiving. So all this data and the knowledge, I suppose, of the farmer along with the Teagasc have led to increased profits on farm. So some of the key dairy products that we've developed within HerdPlus are the calving report, as well as the dairy cow report, the EBI reports, fertility reports, and the co-op performance report. And some of the online services, the Sire Advice, which was mentioned earlier by our Australian colleague Dan Abernathy. They've got a similar system in Australia called Select a Sire. We've got a similar system. We've got the catalogue maker, as I mentioned already. You can go along to the mart and have your catalogue available on the day. Stock and nitrates reports. We have an inbreeding checker and discussion group reports. But just for today, I'm just going to focus in on four reports that are highlighted there. Firstly, the dairy calving report. And as George mentioned, female fertility is a key driver of profit on farms. And having the ability to be able to benchmark is critical. It's a critical component of profitability on farms, to be able to benchmark. And it's important to have factual data as well when making management decisions on farm. So here's an example of a section of the calving report there, where we calculate the mean calving date or the median calving date for farmers. So the data, there's no extra work involved for the farmer. All the data is calculated on the report for them. And some of the key performance indicators when it comes to calving, for example, calving interval. And you can see we benchmark the herd's performance in the first column there with the national average. And we also display the bottom 5% of farmers and the top 5% of farmers. And we do similarly for 6-week calving rate or calves per cow per year. So again, very quickly you can see on a graph form how you're performing vis-a-vis the rest of the country. The Co-op performance reports, and I think George mentioned them earlier as well, relatively new development, and we currently have 14 co-ops participating in this program. And essentially there's 4 reports developed per year sent to every supplier within the co-op. And that represents over 11,500 dairy farmers receiving this report. And it offers a year-on-year comparison of your milk deliveries, as well as a herd scorecard and a co-op benchmark. You can compare your milk solids per cow per day, one year versus the other, but you can also compare within production type. So whether you're a creamery supplier or a winter supplier or a liquid supplier, you're benchmarked against your own production type. And it's an ideal entry-level report. Okay? There's no extra work involved for the farmer. The data is all pre-populated in the report, and it's an ideal, I suppose, a first step before farmers sign up for the full Herd Plus service. And it's a key one for identifying profitability on farm. Here's an example of the Co-op performance report, and you can see there in the red, that's the milk Co-op data, for example, the litres, fat, protein, cell count. And over then on the right, we incorporate the ICBF database, the ICBF data, which essentially is the cow numbers. And from integrating those 2 bits of information, we're able to produce a powerful integrated report. And here's some of the power of the report, where we can see what your total milk solids are for the year, but also on a per cow basis. So you can see your litres per cow per day and your kilos of fat and protein per day. But you can also see how you're comparing one month versus the other and year on year. And we also have some useful management tips built into the report, which we receive from Teagasc. Here is, I suppose, the scorecard section of the report, where the farmer has their own performance highlighted in the first column, so you can see how many kilos, what your litres are, fat, protein, etc. And you can also see what your co-op performance is, your average producer within the co-op, and also the producer in the top 10%, what they're at. And then we can benchmark you against the co-op. And you can see we put a star rating on each of the traits. So for example, a herd that's in the top 20% would be receiving 5 stars, versus a herd in the bottom 20% would be only receiving 1 star. So very quickly you can see whether you're at the top end or at the bottom end. And similarly, as George mentioned earlier, we also put some of the EBI and calving and fertility information on the report as well. So you can have your calving and fertility, for example, your calving interval and your maybe total replacements, and also the EBI data is also displayed on the report. So the dairy sire advice, as I mentioned, Australia have a similar tool available as well to farmers, and it's a tool to assist farmers making their breeding decisions. And again, that was launched by CBF in 2007. And the sire advice can be run directly by the farmers themselves online, or through or with the assistance of their breeding advisor, for example, Teagasc or your AI companies. And this year we had 1,844 farmers running the sire advice directly themselves. But overall, there was over 4,000 farmers had the sire advice run even in conjunction maybe with their advisors as well. So it's being widely used across the industry. And there's an example of the home screen there. And the farmer has the option of choosing 3 different types of program. They can use the suggested active bull list. They can select bulls using their own traits, so they choose what breeding goals they have. Maybe it's improving type of animal or improving protein or improving calving interval, whatever it is, they can select bulls based on their own breeding goals, or they can just manually enter the bulls themselves. And why are they using the sire advice? Well, it's, as I said already, to select bulls that are going to match your own breeding goals on farm. And it'll also avoid any inbreeding concerns. So if you've used a lot of OJI sons, and the sire advice will ensure that there won't be any inbreeding occurring. And we have a cutoff of 6.25%. And it also avoids the lethal gene combinations, for example, CVM and BLAD. And also the sire advice minimizes the variation between milk and fertility, so that you get a more balanced offspring, more balance between milk and fertility. And also within milk kilos. So your high milk bull would be put on your low milk cow and vice versa. And that sire advice is put into a report then, and there's an example of the report. And each cow gets an option of 3 different bulls. But primarily bull number 1 is the best to choose for that cow. And that sire advice then is linked to the AI technician handheld. And the sire advice, when the technician goes out on farm, the sire advice that the farmer has run will be on the technician's handheld. So when the technician goes in to serve cow number whatever, 200, he'll know what bull to use on that particular cow. And it's also reported on the breeding charts as well that we send to farmers. That database then, or that data then, once the AI technician serves the cow, flows directly back into the database. And finally, the farmer can generate reports based on that data then. So in real time, he can generate reports. And there's an example of the fertility report. You can see there the submission rate as it tracks along week 2, week 3, week 4. So you can see at an early stage how your submission rate is going on farm to allow you make corrective action if it's not up to where it should be at. And finally, the last report which I'm going to look at are the discussion group reports. I know there's over 1/3 of dairy farmers actively involved in discussion groups. So it was important for ICBF to develop reports to try and improve how those discussion groups interacted. Farmers' data, we made the data available to Teagasc advisors on one easy to follow report. So there was no more posting or emailing of data prior to meetings. And it also led to more accurate information, because sometimes farmers mightn't have been as accurate at reporting what their figure for maybe their figure for fat or protein in the last month was. So it allows for more accurate reporting and for better group comparisons as well. And ICBF and Teagasc had also a consistent message that high EBI cows are more profitable for farmers. Therefore, the key message was use high EBI bulls. And this group activity that George alluded to earlier was a key reason why EBI was adopted so readily. And as George mentioned, EBI is the key driver of profitability on farms. So we have a range of discussion groups available for farmers, from calving, fertility, EBI, replacements. And just one example here I'm just going to show you, and the names have been taken out over on your left-hand side. The names would be there. But essentially all the farmers in the group are displayed down along a list. And you can see the EBI, the milk subindex, fertility subindex, and the young stock, the EBI of the young stock. But also you can see what the group average is for your group, and you can compare yourself with the average, or also with the top performer within the group. So to summarize, as I mentioned, the ICBF database is very well connected within the industry. HerdPlus is saving farmers lots of time and money. All the information is there already. There's no extra work involved for the farmer. So all they need to do is log on to receive those management reports. Where the interaction with our industry partners is increasing year on year, and we're seeing a continued growth in the HerdPlus service. And the discussion groups have played a key part in the HerdPlus adoption. We're continually developing our reports in conjunction with farmer feedback as well as with Teagasc. And Herd Plus is now part of the training module for young farmers in the agricultural colleges. And as I said already, data and knowledge is the key to profit on farm. So finally, and I think Jack was mentioning social media there earlier, well, ICBF and the Herd Plus service is available on Facebook and Twitter, and you can actually follow the conference at the hashtag ICAR 2012. So thank you.
Thanks very much.